So welcome everybody. Thank you for attending this lunch and learn. Our special partner is Semperis. So we're really happy to have all of you guys. We have a nice group of professionals here, and obviously your presence today really shows that you're committed to learning more about how we can continue to secure our businesses and our organizations. And so what we're going to be discussing today is Active Directory. More than 90% of organizations today use Active Directory not just in finance and business, but also in healthcare, in government enterprises. So it's permeated across every industry. And so Active Directory is one of the most important things to make sure that it's being secured um, when it comes to cybersecurity. So today we have two professionals. We have Karim Sadek and we have Jason Fournerat, our senior solutions architect from Semperis. So they're going to be doing the demo for us today, and everybody will be receiving gift cards for attending this event as a thank you gesture to start our demo. So thank you guys from Semperis for taking the time to be here, and Kareem and Jason, you have our full attention.
Excellent. Good morning. Okay, well,
Yes.
good afternoon now, 7 minutes past. Thank you, Scott. Kareem Sadek, I'm the Eastern Director here for Semperis, and we're very lucky to have Jason with us, aka J4. He's an upgrade from my current SC. He's kind of the AD ninja that everybody goes to, so I'm very excited to have him with us. It's very rare to have his attention, but he wanted to be here, so I'm really happy to have him. So a little bit about Semperis, if everyone's ever heard it. We're one of the fastest growing cyber security companies in North America. We're not a very big company. We're very niche focused on Active Directory. We like to prove that we're the experts when it comes to Active Directory. Most of the foundational people that have come to found this company directly came from Microsoft incubator programs. We also have backings from Insight Partners, KKR, and Cohesity as of recently. So we're growing. We won a few awards. We're definitely up there. We're very niche, like we said. So some companies, overlook Active Directory, but as you can see, we've been working with Gartner to build out the ITDR segment. It's not actually officially done, so it's interesting to us to see other companies claim that they're leaders in ITDR when there's not an actual segment yet. We're still working on that with Gartner, and they reached out to us just because we are the leaders in this space. As Active Directory, and thank you all for being here, is really the cible of the attacks these days, right? So data is a little bit less of an attack vector now, just because um, you know the advancements in backups for the data and the multiple copies. It's a little less of an ask, but Active Directory, once you have it, is definitely a major issue. This is just a slide that I put together. Doesn't mean we're only for large companies. It's just to go and show you that to get their attention, there is a gap in the market. Active Directory is 26 years old. It does get overlooked, but once a ransomware attack happens and malware is installed everywhere in your systems, we're generally seeing that it's coming from the Active Directory side, right? So Active Directory, as Scott put it at the beginning, exactly right, is 90% of the identity stores still rely on Active Directory. It leads up into, your cloud, into your other SaaS applications. So the bleeding definitely starts from the Active Directory, why it's such a juicy target. And Active Directory was never designed, 26 years old this year, to be a security platform, right? And especially with the vectors that we see today, 80% of the attacks still come from credential abuse, right? System weakness over time, just because the expertise in AD has kind of diminished with the system, right? So we just build on top of it. We're scared to change what was originally put into place, or not sure if changing it would help, right? So that's where we lead. We can help with hardening. And also cloud identity, right? I just mentioned it. Most of what stems from AD rolls up into the cloud, right? So we're not only on-prem solution, we are also hybrid or cloud as well. So if you have Entra or Okta, we play in that space as well. I'm going over this relatively quickly, just so I can get you time um, for the demo. We like to do what we call a full circle. So we do a before, during attack, and an after attack analysis. So before an attack quickly is that we do 24/7 monitoring with red team attacks against your AD to give you updates on what's actually happening. During an attack, we make sure that your AD is back to operational. operation in a very short period of time. And the third portion of the wheel would be the remediation, right? Working with our teams, letting you know how this happened, giving you detailed information of like, where the gaps were, how this was actually done, right? So that's kind of how we do it. So, why do companies come to us? Right? Why does it's really the visibility into the AD. We also, prove out a clean restore. So, we make sure that when we're restoring your AD, it's malware free, right? Because 90% of ransomwares are paid on AD attacks just because they're so difficult to remove, right? So if you have standard backups, which I'd love to see, that poll is at what point in time has that ransomware been in your system. We had a poll in 2025 that said on average it was 327 days. So how far back are you going to go? 1 month, 6 months? You're going to restore every time and restart, right? So we make sure that we mitigate that kind of risk. So rapid recovery, 6, 7 clicks, you're back up and running, and we automate a lot of that process. Okay, anywhere recovery. So we really don't care about the hardware that it comes from, right? So we're agnostic in that sense. If you want to um, rebuild it on cloud or in another data center, you're happy to do that. All we care about really is the version of OS. So if it's 2019, we're sticking to 2019, right? I don't really care about patches and so forth, just the version. Um, and also, our strong point is this, again, the post attack forensics, which we give you an analysis of, right? If anybody's tried to do a live force recovery, which I've run into very little in the 6 months I've been here covering this territory, it's one of the questions like, oh, we've tested a couple DCs or we know, but no one's ever done a real live Active Directory force recovery. We prove that out every year with you. So once a year, we do that exercise with your team to prove out that everything's still working and tip-top shape, right? And every quarter, we suggest that you meet with your teams. That's part of the solution to make sure that you have the best information around your IOCs, the IOEs, and the hardening of your AD. So we're very proactive in that sense. We like to meet our customers once a quarter. So most of what you see here is a manual process after step 3, right? So your backups are going to bring you to where step 3 is, and away you go and start building this process that comes directly from Microsoft. Now, with ADFR, what we're going to work on today is these steps get eliminated, right? In terms of an automated process that Semperis IP'd, right? So it's a very interesting, giving you a sure way to restore and giving you time back to work on other things, right? Why is it so quick? We'll probably get into it more in the demo. I don't want to take too much time. So is we really care only about the DIT files, logs, XML, and the sysvol, right? So we really don't care about the OS or the bare metal information, right? That's not something that is necessary for us. And we're able to build multiple DCs in parallel. So no more sequential building. All that's gone. You're working with our teams to design that for you, and away you go with a couple of clicks, right? So that's literally where the speed comes from Semperis, and it's our IP, right? And another, just a quick touch here is, this is a sample size, but let's say a system state backup was 11 gigs. The similar information that ADFR needs to bring your recovery process back online is only 116 megabytes, which is relatively small, right? So that's where the speed comes from. Just one more point before I pass it over to J4. We really are a niche market. We have the expertise in AD. We're there to prove it, right? So we do POCs. We have 2 fashions of doing that, but we really have the expertise that came from, the birth of AD, from Microsoft buying it all the way to adding their flavor to it. These people have been involved from the beginning, right? So we have a lot of expertise in AD. We don't claim to be experts in anything else, right? Although we have quite an extensive IR team that do know where all the gaps lie in other solutions. This is really where we get our heavy hitters from. This is data surface protector. This is more on the security side. We invite you to reach out, do demos, and see how this can help. But we won't have time today, unfortunately. Just another thing is that what we've done for the Canadian market and specifically for Assurance IT customers is if you do end up being a customer of Semperis through the ADFR platform, we are giving you access to our Ready One ICM out-of-band communication. So if you are under attack, you'll be working with our teams, not only the IR teams, but from a global aspect for your whole teams, right? So we keep your runbooks up to date, who's employed, who's not employed. We give you, extra emails for if there's an emergency and who should be reached. If you're compromised internally, if your teams are down, we give you a bridge. And video conferencing ability. If your internet's down, we have another way to blast out that communication. And you see all the recovery process in lifetime and the steps that are being done. So you don't need to call each other on a constant basis to know where you are. You're going to see it in live action, right? So our teams are present, along obviously Assurance IT who will be involved, and your IR team for while we're working on your malware-free restore. That's kind of where I want to leave it. It was relatively quick. I just want to give Jason more time because everybody's wants to see the technical nature, I'm sure. So take it away, J4.
Thank you, Karim. Just quick introduction. Thanks for everybody for joining. I appreciate your time. I am, in fact, a senior solutions architect here out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where May will be 5 years that I've been with Semperis. But prior to Semperis, I worked for Microsoft here also out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area as a senior escalation engineer. And I got to tell you, for those 13 years, from the inception of Active Directory to about 2013 is when I left, I thought to myself, there's got to be an easier way of doing this nasty 28 steps, 90-page document of recovering Active Directory. The CTO currently here of Semperis had a little bit more fortitude than I did, and that's what's birthed Semperis as well as this ADFR solution. So what I'd like to do next is we'll kind of work through the demonstration as promised. I'll call out a couple of things specifically with the lab environment, and we'll go from there. So let me share out my screen here specifically. What I want to revisit just right quick is one of the slides that Karim showed in respect of, I want to stress that if you don't take anything else from me here today, please understand our secret sauce, the patented technology of ADFR is just how small we get our backups. So as you see from left to right, the ADFR one is so much smaller because it doesn't include the operating system. That is specifically the patented technology that we have where our backups have been decoupled, the operating system has been decoupled from the the Active Directory. Couple of things that I'd like to call out. He mentioned a little bit before, we don't care about patching. The idea is we're going to get your domain controllers up and running and serving up those authentication requests as immediately as we possibly can. The idea is then you circle back and do the patching of those restored domain controllers. But typically, the solution here, as mentioned, where you typically have the compromise is built into the operating system. As mentioned, we're not including that. So with ADFR, you get the cleanest type of restoration out there on the market. Again, in the respect of that operating system not being part of what you are restoring, and if you're restoring with anything else, you're possibly just reinfecting the environment all over together. So I'll take a quick moment here and call out, Microsoft really hasn't done anything in the respect of backing up on-prem Active Directory, right? We can debate debate the recycle bin if you'd like, but since 2000 with the inception of Active Directory, that's really all it's been. So calling that out here right quick, as well as, again, to that point, I really wish there was something that in my tool belt that I had to automate this type of process. And I'm here to tell you, ADFR is that solution, and today is the day. We'll speak here real quick when we talk the infrastructure pieces about the independency of Active Directory. There were times, unfortunately, at Microsoft where I could not help Microsoft's customer. They did not test the actual fully taking down Active Directory during their disaster recovery drills. What I mean by that is they still had access to their backups during those drills. And when scorched earth kind of thing happened and they no longer had access to log into VMware or Hyper-V, where their backups were stored, we couldn't help them. So there is a very, very significant point that I'll call out here with the Active Directory and how we want to remain independent from what you are protecting. And then we're going to demonstrate, I'm actually going to simulate a ransomware type of event in my environment, in my lab here, where we'll take down the 4 total DCs, 2 in the root, 2 in the child, and show you just exactly how wonderful this solution is. So without further ado, well, let me make one more point also real quick. If you're familiar at all with the system state backup and that nasty WinSXS Windows Update folder, if you don't maintain that, you probably also know how, in fact, the system state and those bare metals can get bloated. We don't, again, to that point, we don't care about the patching levels on the DCs as well as your recovery targets. We want to remain in Microsoft's good graces and their best practices. So we are not using, I repeat, not using anything third-party, proprietary. That is, we are in fact using Microsoft's very own VSS writers. So without further ado, let me show you what it now looks like, where we will launch into ADFR. This is the splash screen, and this is the management server of ADFR that I'm currently logged into, or about to log into. Notice I have an administration panel as well as a recovery panel, and also note that I am logging in with a local Windows account. And that, once again, is representative of the AD independency. By default, this is where your backups are stored, or on this management server. And once again, if in fact Active Directory is down, we want to be able to access your backups. So for the administration panel, we'll log in with a local Windows account that has administrative privileges to the domain. I'm sorry, to this particular machine. And then we have the recovery console that we'll eventually get to, that can be used with a different account. Obviously, with the opportunity to perform a recovery, we want to protect that privilege. So a total different account and password that we can set for the recovery account that's local to the solution. But back to administrator, we're again logging in here locally to local Windows. And this is what the default splash screen looks like. I want to call out here just real quick the infrastructure pieces. So we'll start here and again mention this ADFR management server that we've just logged into. To that point that I made earlier, once again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but in fact, we want to remain AD independent. This management server is not joined to any forest that it is protecting. Case in point, it is in fact just left in a Windows workgroup environment. If there's any consternation about that, we have a wonderful hardening guide that our customer success team can easily assist in implementing, but we also have the opportunity to configure it for SAML authentication if you desire. So again, to the point of this management server, because of the AD independency requirement, it's a Windows workgroup box. And by default, this is where your backups are stored. Let's take a look real quick at what those backups look like. So again, here by default is where your backups are stored. Under the Semperis, the backup store. This is my backup set that I just created prior to getting on the phone with you guys today. The set includes 2 DCs in the root, 2 DCs in the forest. They are encrypted by default. At rest, they're encrypted with AES 256 to certificates, and in transit, they're replicated with TLS. Once inside here, and to the point of my slide that I returned, it is simply the hard disk file, a handful of XML configuration files for the solution, and that's pretty much it. Getting the compression ratio way, way down. So that's what the backups look like. We'll talk real quick about these other infrastructure pieces. The ADFR agents are the very important piece to the ADFR solution. And I'll softball it here in explaining that if you have a domain controller that does not have the ADFR agent on it, it is not ADFR aware. Now that's important because that will mean that that particular non-agent DC is not going to be part of your backups taken. But more importantly, when you go to restore those backups, that non-agent DC is going to be deleted or pruned from your AD metadata. Yes, you heard that right. ADFR does clean up for you of the DCs that are no longer around or that are no longer ADFR aware. The latest version of ADFR, we are able to now copy up the backups either as in addition to locally to the Entra ID storage. And then the distribution points allow us to scale out the product. These are optional, but it allows you to install these distribution points to make those backups closer locally to the DCs. So perhaps maybe you have a data center or a disaster recovery location where you want to store these backups closer to make that restoration even quicker. These optional distribution points are exactly what that's for. So next, what I'll do is, once again, we're going to simulate a ransomware type of event. You'll see here when I go to the agent, this one-stop shop type of page, I can manipulate the agent from here without actually having to log into the domain controller. I'm going to backpedal again a little bit here real quick and explain this management server is running IIS. So as long as you have the IIS port open, you typically can hit this management server from anywhere on the network. ADFR agents, what we're going to do is I'm going to simulate, once again, this ransomware event. I'm going to disable, instead of powering down my DCs, I'm going to simply disable the agents on all 4 of them. Notice here is where I'm getting prompted for elevated privileges. And I want to point out, this is the only time we ever use any type of elevated privilege, is to, in fact, manipulate the agent on the DC. That includes upgrading, removing, and or installing. So I'll do this here right quick. Again, in the essence of demonstrating this ransomware event. While these spin down, I'll call out my environment right fast. Again, the 2 root DCs, the 2 child DCs, the management server that I'm on here right now. But I want to also make attention of these blank VMs that I have just sitting here waiting in the wing. What's going to happen is we're going to restore the backup, again, that I just took moments before getting on the phone. We're going to restore the backup of each of these 4 DCs onto these blank VMs. Now I will explain, all I have done for these blank VMs is installed the operating system that matches the domain controller. If you see here, all 4 of my DCs are in fact 2022. All 4 of these blank VMs are also server 2022. The only other thing that I've done to these blank VMs is installed the ADFR agent to make them ADFR aware. I have not joined them to the domain that they're going to be domain controllers for. I have not added or installed any type of feature or role that you might think the Active Directory requires. These are, once again, as plain vanilla as possible, other than the operating system and the agent being deployed to it to make them, once again, ADFR aware. Once this is powered down, as witnessed here, we'll go ahead and log off of the administration console and into the recovery. So as mentioned, this is another account that's local to the actual solution. Although it looks like as if it's the same, but I am in fact, I'm removing that backslash for the local account using one that is to the ADFR software. Point being, You want these 2 different accounts, 2 different passwords. When it opens, this is the forest that I am in fact protecting. ADFR is multi-forest capable, so if you had any additional forests, you would see them here, and you would only need to deploy that one agent, that one management server for multiple forests. Once inside here, here are my options for the recovery. The one that gets the most notoriety, of course, and the one that probably everyone is here to see, is this start forest recovery that will kick off momentarily. But I want to call out here the other 2 options that are available to us, where we can perform a start domain controller restoration. And the example I give for this is, we've all had one of those domain controllers that's just been problematic. It's not replicating, it's not doing what it's supposed to, and it's been determined or decided to go ahead and just simply demote it down and re-promote it back up. This option automates that for you. This option performs that demotion of that selected non-cooperative DC. It then goes in the metadata cleanup, cleans that all out for you, and then re-promotes it back up for you automatically. The next option, as seen, is the partition recovery. And the example I like to give for this is perhaps maybe you had a script that did a bunch of unintended types of changes in the environment. It happens. It's happened to me before. This affords you the opportunity to roll that back, that particular partition back, prior to the time of the script running. The solution will make it authoritative and then replicate that particular version of the partition out to your other domain controllers, giving you back, once again, that particular instance of prior to running the script that made all the unintended changes. But here we are once again, the start forced recovery. That's what we're here to see. Selecting it, I simply am going to select my latest and greatest backup. Once again, that was taken just prior to getting on the phone. This provides me this review of, in fact, what my backup set includes. And yes, it's the same 2 DCs in the root, 2 DCs in the child. And I want to call out here this particular target IP column. So I have 2 options that I could actually perform a restoration with ADFR. If I have the current domain controllers available to me, I can simply continue with the agent still running, obviously, not that, not within this scenario. I can actually continue through this restoration where it will restore the backups on top of the domain controllers that are currently running. But the other one that the more scenario of the ransomware, I think, kind of hits home a little bit better in the respect of this is what we would be working together with you if, in fact, you had a problem where you needed to restore your Active Directory forest. Hand in hand together, working through these minimalistic steps. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to populate the IP address with, guess what? The IPs of those recovery targets, the blank VMs that I just have sitting out there. To do such, I've got to play by 3 rules. The first rule, kind of mentioned already, is the VM has to be, the recovery target has to be of the same operating system version. That's 1. Rule number 2 is that VM has to be of the same, have the same drive letter configuration and same amount available disk space. So take, for instance, if my child DC had an E drive, then this .53 VM4 is going to have to also have that E drive with the same amount of available space. That's rule number 2. Rule number 3 is, again, with the installation of the agent. We have to make those recovery targets ADFR aware, and to do such, that's where you download this agent and install it on there if they're not on there already, like I've done. We have the ability to either restore, as you see here, all 4 at the same time, or perhaps maybe this particular DC isn't so important to get up in the first restoration, so you can simply select the repromote for it. But to demonstrate how quickly this works, I'm going to show you here that this option, and with doing the restore, does all of these restorations simultaneously. It's not going to do the forced root FSMO rolls up here in the forest first, and then go do the FSMO rolls down here in the child to circle back around and do the non-FSMO rolls. You'll see here momentarily, it's going to do this all at the same time. So we'll hit continue. We'll get a review of exactly what we are performing here in this restoration. The DS restore mode credentials are changed for you. If you desire, this is where you can recover those. And upon the actual restoration, you can change your DS restore mode passwords manually if you desire. So next, we'll hit the start recovery, and off it runs. Here is the split view that we recently introduced, where it's top loaded, working through those steps of the 28 and all those things that Karim also showed earlier. Again, automating this for you across all of your DCs at the same time. Again, the day is here. This is the easiest I've ever seen anybody, any solution, make this particular nightmare. Now it will work through these additional stages.
It's someone let.
I'm sorry? Okay. It will work through these additional stages for the post restore. As I mentioned, the metadata cleanup for the non-aware ADFR DCs. So the DCs that you do not have agents installed or are no longer around. The reinstatement of forced functionality, where recreation of the global catalog as well. And then it will actually skip these last 2 stages simply because of our option that we selected with performing a restoration instead of a repromotion, as I shown. But if I would have in fact selected that radio button for the repromotion, it does in fact go out there and create the install for media for me, and then re-promotes that particular DC to complete the actual restoration of it for both the restore and the repromote. But again, these last 2 stages are going to be skipped. This typically, in my environment, takes up to 12, 15 minutes. If we have any questions at the time, I'd be happy to take any of those while we kind of wait for this to bake here in the background. Does anybody see this as an advantage? Okay, well, no other questions. Karim, I'll hand it back to you, sir.
Sure. So this gives you back time, right? So while your AD is getting rebuilt and cleaned out, it gives you actions to go and start your backup and recovery process on other processes. If you are a Cohesity customer, we have a deep integration into their platform as well, so that can even automate some of the processes even further. And also, if you are an ADFR customer, like I mentioned, you would have your Ready One team being implicated in these processes as well, right? So you would see what's actually happening with your recovery process while they work through all the other logistics of getting you up and running, right? So that's kind of where we are. So this will just complete itself in a few minutes. I don't think we might have time. I don't know what time is it at 12:41. We might not have time to see the ending of it. But if there's questions, we're happy to walk through any of those while in the time remaining.
Yeah, because the desire is what I'll tell you is what we'll do is when this actually completes, I will in fact jump to these blank VMs and show you that now, other than the IP address, they are identical to the DCs that they were restored from the backup.
And I touched on it quickly. We do this with a live recovery every year for our customers, right? So we prove this out every year. So any RTO, RPOs that you guys might have, consider it substantially less with Semperis in your environment, as well as that we prove out, right? So we're constantly looking at ways to improve uh, your AD health.
The other thing that I'd like to add is when I was first introduced to ADFR, the thing that jumped out to me is kind of like what we are witnessing here and the opportunity to create a bubble lab or a point in time representation of my true Active Directory environment. And that's kind of helpful in implementing the sort of things that I found with the uh, like NIST standards and PCI, being able to implement those in a lab environment or a sandbox, and at whatever scale that I would like of the restoring the that point in time copy. The question, Nicole, how does it integrate with Cohesity? What it amounts to is the ease of Cohesity backing up our backups, backing up this management server, backing up the backups that the ADFR management server captures, making them redundant, making them also immutable. They also have the smart files technology, and as well as the Fort Knox type of technology to work with it kind of in the partnership together. So again, it amounts to protecting our backups even further. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and our integration is just going further and further along with Cohesity. So, um, from what I understand, is most of our dashboards are going to be one across both, and we're tying in more of our security indicators to tie into their view as well. So it's really a technology integration versus just on paper partnerships, right? We can always
So
explore that with anybody if there's yes. Go ahead, Scott.
I was about to say, so speaking about the integrations that you guys have mentioned, would you position those as a strength compared to other data protection solutions on the market, such as competitors and others?
Oh, absolutely. That's why Cohesity came to us. I mean, anybody who's been following acquisitions and mergers with their purchase of Veritas and the IP and research that they've gone into, I mean, one can argue, who's the best backup vendor and all that, right? That's a matter of taste. But they saw the gap in the market when it comes to AD recovery, and that's where I guess our partnership started, right? So there's a lot of other people who tick the box and say, oh yeah, we have AD as well, but not really, unfortunately.
And
It's really the, yep, go ahead.
what I didn't preface this meeting with is, and I should have, is when we go in to speak with prospects, I like to explain to them I am not looking, I repeat, not looking to replace their current backup solution. I'm looking to enhance it for Active Directory. And what Karim explained earlier or mentioned in his slide deck in respect of, we are a AD laser focused niche type of company, and that's where we want to continue to focus on that Active Directory and the Entra ID Cloud pieces as well.
Very nice. So I guess it could be positioned as ADFR getting AD back online as fast as possible, which would be the priority, right, in an event of a cyber crisis.
100%.
Awesome. So thank you. That's a very, very nice package. And thank you so much, Jason, for your wonderful demo. It was super thorough. We love the care that you put into it and the enthusiasm also. It was very, very nice. Thank you. And Kareem, also, thank you for your nice preface and your valid points as well. Thank you to both of you guys.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
Um, Thank you so much. Perfect. So that wraps it up, guys. Just to mention once again, if you do book a demo for us, with us, uh, it will be of great interest to you guys. Semperis has offered a complete package with Assurance IT for special pricing and recovery readiness, all included in that package. So if you're interested in that limited time offer, you can reach out to our team, and it'll be a pleasure for us to reach out with you and to coordinate that meeting with you. So if there's any interest in Semperis' product after today's demo, please don't hesitate to reach out to our sales team, get in contact with us, and we'll be happy to continue that conversation with you guys.